Hello, and welcome to EduCurious podcast. I'm Dr. Amber Love Johnson. Today we have a special guest, Polk County's own Sheriff Grady Judd. Welcome to the show.
Amber, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for making time in your busy schedule for us.
Oh, it's exciting to be here with you.
So, one of my big passions, I work in education,
Sure.
is keeping our kids safe in our schools. So I want to talk about that for the first part. And
Okay.
then the second part, I also want to talk a little bit about preventing.
Okay.
How do we keep the kids from going down that pathway to violence?
Sure.
There's a lot of national conversation around the school to prison pipeline. From your perspective, what do you feel like is something that's actually a disruptor that actually
Sure.
makes a difference when kids are going down that trajectory?
What happens is the school teachers are inheriting children that weren't prepared to come to school to begin with because they had irresponsible parents. And now you all are having to go, I've got this child in preschool and kindergarten and first grade, and my goodness, they still have trouble with, basic hygiene issues. And I've got to teach them to read and write. So because the parents did not take care of them in the beginning, it makes it more difficult for you. But the reality of it is all children can learn. All children can thrive. And I want to start by bragging on our school system. We see the children, we highlight the children, and we're concerned about the children that don't thrive. But you can never measure all of the children who started behind the eight ball, if you will. And because of the wonderful work by the teachers, they thrived, excelled, and did great and are doing great. So the reality of it is we have to start with them ideally from the time they're born. And there are groups like Healthy Start that really work closely. When it comes to the schools, we have to make sure we've got systems in place through the state of Florida so that we can help the children and help the families that need help. But the reality is our goal is to prevent and help the children, prevent any security issues, prevent any deficits, and help the children thrive. And that's why we all have to work together. And so let's don't think about it the school to prison pipeline. Let's think the school to the success outcome. And then there are a few, despite everything we try to do together, it just doesn't work because we're pushing upstream for when they get home and they're not supported at home. And maybe they don't have the appropriate home life. So the reality of it is, as long as I've been in law enforcement, I have only seen the work by the schools and the work by the counselors and the opportunities increase so people don't go to prison. That's all of our goals. And if you come into our system, the criminal justice system, it is designed to teach you and coach you and help you out of the system so that you never come back. So the one that continues to come back and continues to come back and continues to come back are the same ones that in high school and middle school and elementary school that y'all worked with over and over and over. And for a variety of reasons, they weren't successful and that didn't want to be successful, or their parents created a culture of inappropriate conduct and they chose to go that path. So, I guess philosophically, we can talk about that forever because I've seen the children we've helped and I've seen the children we've never been able to help. And I've had a conversation with adults at 45 or 50 that stayed in trouble and stayed in trouble. And all of a sudden, one day the light turned on. And when I talk to them, what I find out is many times what their teachers did and said and tried and planted the seeds way back in the day finally took, but you don't ever get to see them.
Right. It rarely makes the news.
And I can't say enough good about our teachers and our instructors, because once again, we can't measure the absence of a problem. We don't measure success because success moves on.
Mhm.
And we're left with this, I call it a myopic focus on a very few children that, despite our best efforts, don't succeed, and that's sad.
So as I've been in and out of different classrooms noticing the kids and doing research, a lot of educators keep saying, well, their behavior, it's communication. They're trying to communicate. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. But how do you determine when just normal teenage behavior needs to change and support systems need to be put in place to keep them off the not so good pathway?
Accountability and responsibility are very important. And the guardrails that you set up the school are sometimes the only guardrails they have. When they go home, there's no guardrails. When they go home, they many times see a parent, a boyfriend, a girlfriend that's smoking dope, doesn't go to work, no accountability, stays drunk, and that is their norm. And as sad as it is, when you come to school now, we're providing guardrails. We're providing positive interaction and accountability and responsibility. And some children push back against that. At that point in time, when that behavior becomes disruptive, you deal with it. When it becomes criminally disruptive, then we have to deal with it. But here's what people don't realize. According to data I've received from the Department of Juvenile Justice, 75% of the children that have an interaction with law enforcement and the Department of Juvenile Justice are one and done. They never come back. That's pretty remarkable to me, to have a 75% success rate. So what we do with that 75%, unless we're dealing with a serious crime, we do pre-trial diversions, pre-arrest diversions. So most of the time, we don't even get to a quote pre-trial diversion or pre-adjudication. We'd call it the juvenile system diversion. We divert the children up front. But the difference is if there's inappropriate conduct, and let's talk about it, stealing from school, being disruptive, to the point that law enforcement has to become involved. Instead of us referring them to teen court, which is a pre-arrest diversion, and letting them go about their merry way, we give them what we call the therapeutic ride. We bring them down to the juvenile assessment center in handcuffs many times. And it's like being arrested, but it's not. And then we get in there and then we do a pre-arrest referral so that they're not in the criminal justice system. But we've had a chance to counsel them and say, hey, this is what's going to happen to you if you don't behave in the future. Instead of a pre-arrest diversion, it's going to be criminal charges. So then we divert them and we call their parents to come get them. Now, here's what's interesting. If their parents don't come get them, hey, I'm not coming to get them. You took them down there. You bring them back. We go, are you neglecting your child? Then we go put accountability or guardrails we do to the parent. We'll go arrest the parents for not taking care of the children because the problem with the child emanated from the parents' lack of accountability and responsibility in the first place. So the overwhelming majority of children we deal with never go into the criminal justice system. Isn't that exciting?
Very.
And those that do, many times don't go into a program or lock up. They're giving sometimes medicine, mental health help, social skills, interaction help. But even with that shakedown, there's always going to be a very, very, very small percentage that are incorrigible and out of control and ultimately will end up in the system. But very few.
So you answered the question about holding students accountable
Sure.
without criminalizing their behavior. Because it sounds like once they see what's out there, they're ready to make a 180 and get back on the
Right.
track.
And let me talk about criminalization, okay, in juveniles. Let's focus criminalization in juveniles. Well, wait a minute. The criminal justice system is the only system in the United States and the world, but the United States, that can make people do things they don't want to do. We can arrest people. We can make them go to juvenile court. The judges, the court system, the criminal justice system can make them go to rehab, can make their parents take them or be held accountable. You see? So the whole purpose of this system is not to criminalize. That's not what we want to do. And I don't even like the term. But the criminal justice system used appropriately is the only system that can say, hey, you need help. And since you're not going to get it on your own, we're going to make you get help. And the whole philosophy behind that is we make you get help so that you don't ever come back. And it works because we can make parents do things that the school can't make parents do, that Department of Children and Families can't make parents do. So the reality is our goal is not to criminalize children or parents, but to use this system for the very small percentage of the population of Polk County or Florida in the United States that otherwise are just incorrigible and won't do what they're supposed to. But if this system worked right, and that's our goal, corrects behavior, and people go, ooh, I didn't like that. It stung. I don't want to do that.
Have you noticed in your tenure particular early warning signs that are red flags that we can look out for?
When you're dealing with children, words matter. Children now, social media just puts that on overdrive or in hyperstate. But words matter. Children say, I'm going to strike out, I'm going to shoot, I'm going to stab, I'm going to commit suicide, I'm going to kill my teacher. Until we can determine to the contrary, believe them. Historically, that's been ignored. All that's just kids talking. And you know what? 99 and 9/100% of the time, that's correct. But if you ignore it, you have that one student who is a loner. You have that one student who's antisocial. You have that one student that the kids walk around because they scare them. They put off an aura. If we don't get to that child and help them, then that is the person that has the proclivity most often to be an active shooter. And and these folks that are active shooters, Amber, they're not traditional criminals. They're not kids that like to steal. They're not kids that just like to be disruptive for attention. These folks have a special scariness to them. But you have to bring everyone who provides clues in for mental health counseling. And our goal is not to lock people up, especially at a young age, but it's to make sure that they get counseling, that we make sure they have mental health help. Now, I can tell you that the sheriff's office here, on occasion, has used our psychiatrist to help children when they fell through the cracks someplace else, or mom and dad couldn't afford it, just to make sure that they got help. But if we don't look at these warning signs, and it's traditionally they're loners, sometimes they're in need of attention, they lash out, they say things or draw pictures of things that are inappropriate, doesn't mean they're going to be an active shooter, but it means they need attention and they need counseling, because our goal is not to be able to defend the students and the staff from the active shooter that arrives. That's not our first goal. That's our last goal. Our first steps are to layer in or feather in opportunities to identify that person well in advance. And here's what we know. Someone can get mad at your school today. As a middle school student, you have all kinds of issues, you get it all patted down. They come back 5 years later. It's not that you made them mad on Friday and they show up with that on Monday. That happens. Sometimes you made them mad on Friday in 2026 and they show up in 2031. We've got to always be cautious that we never go, that doesn't mean anything. Oh, that's no big deal. It's over with. He's calmed down. No, we've got to get to the root of why that conduct occurred in the first place. Otherwise, we could be dealing with an active shooter on the campus one day.
So that's a good point to start talking about the school safety. For you, how do you define school safety?
School safety needs to be transparent to the student. They don't need to go to school and all of a sudden they're walking into the doors of Fort Knox that closes behind them so that they feel like they're in a prison to go to school. That needs to be transparent. I had a lady one time said, "Oh, it scares me that we do these lockdown drills because my child's afraid that there's a shooter there." I said, "Well, ma'am, do you do fire drills?" She goes, "Yes." I said, "Well, is your child afraid that the school's going to burn down?" "Well, no." But see, we've all done fire drills for so long. We know that the fire drill is to teach us systematically what to do in the event there's a fire, but we're not scared because we think the place is on fire because there's a fire drill. Lockdown drills are new, but over a few years, children are going to say, "There's no problem here. It's just like a fire drill. We have a fire drill, we have a lockdown drill." But other than that obvious sign, children should go into a very secure environment that they don't even see the security. So our focus is to create a happy place where they socialize, they interact, they learn, where there's positive interactions with the students and the teachers. The teachers are trained, the staff's trained, but the students just get to go there and enjoy school. But if you have all the layers in place, I can't tell you there will never be a shooter. But I can tell you that, first off, the probabilities of a shooter are very low. And it even gets lower if you add the security. And it's physical security of the facility. And it's also the security that's put in place by seeing something, hearing something, saying something, and making sure that we have the mental health counseling and the attention to the child, that we're just not accepting that, oh, it's kid talk. And then the next thing we know, we got a gun problem.
Mm-hmm. So with those layers of security and looking at school budgets and the state of everything, can you talk about your guardian program that you started that is very successful and how it fits into those layers of security within our schools?
I started this program. It was called the Sentinel program. And we started this long before the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. I had studied these shootings throughout the nation, and I brought together three people. One of them was of Polk State College. He was no longer the president. One of them was the southeastern president, and one of them was the superintendent of schools, no longer superintendent. And I brought them together several years ago, and I said, I'm really concerned. We need to have a lot of layers of security, but the last layer is we need to have people on campus. I want to train sentinels. It's virtually no cost. You use your staff, you use your dean of students, you use your principals, you use your staff that's already there. The training has to include all of the training that a law enforcement officer would have in handling a weapon, and they need to take those tests and have a 5% higher requirement to graduate than even a police officer. Then we put them on the range and they qualify with their firearms. And they have to qualify at 5% higher than even a police officer has to. We're not asking people to be police officers on the campus. We're asking them to be the last stand of defense if somebody comes there. So they need to be able to handle a firearm appropriately and understand that period of law. We'll call it the Sentinel program. My team put together a beautiful program. Superintendent of schools goes, "I'm good, Grady." The Polk State president said, "Nah, I don't think we want to do that." The Southeastern president said, "Absolutely, we want to do that." Now let's fast forward. 2 or 3 years later, President of Southeastern said, when parents come to us, they ask me 2 questions, primary questions. What kind of education is my child going to get if I send them to your college? And are they going to be safe? My Sentinel program, my deputies that we contract with to be here, are the best marketing tools that we could have, because parents understand when we take the safety and security of their children seriously. So that's kind of the bottom line. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas occurred. Then the Florida legislature came to me and said, "We understand you have a program." And by and large, it was a program that everybody had turned down years before except Southeastern. I said, "Yes, I do." And I handed it to them. The legislature added, I think it was 8 hours of diversity training, and used my exact program and renamed it the Guardian program. It is remarkable. The bottom line to it is, it's the most economical way to put guns on campuses in very well-trained hands of responsible educators or educator staff, so that in the unlikely event that the layers fail and the person shows up, that we can protect them. And here's what we know. If an active shooter shows up on campus, they're there. Even if they've not started shooting, they're there. You recognize the gun and the threat. You dial 911. The police response, by the time it goes to the communication center, they dispatch the cars get there, is a plus 5 minutes. The damage done by an active shooter is minus 5 minutes. Statistically, we will never get there in time to stop the active shooter before they start on their rampage, and they do their most damage in the first minute and a half. So, as horrifying as it is for some people to think about having to have trained people on campuses with guns, it's mandatory. But if you're not comfortable with a gun, you shouldn't be the person. It's whoever is comfortable with a gun and wants to demonstrate that amount of training. And oh, by the way, there's quarterly training in order to be a guardian. I have to certify people to be guardians. The sheriff of the county does. So I want to make for darn sure that they're prepared psychologically, emotionally, educationally, in order to respond in the event, and technically, tactically, if they need to. It's a heavy burden for someone, but I underscore, that's not the first response. That's the very last opportunity to protect children.
I appreciate you keeping our kids safe and educating our kids and keeping our county safe. So thank you for your time today.
Thank you very much. Crime's at a 54-year low. There's a reason for that. And it starts with responsible parents at home. It it's carried on by our wonderful school teachers. I love my school teachers, my school staff. I believe in them. Their mission is so vital and so important. And our job is to provide an environment, let's call it a transparent safety net, so that y'all can do your job. Take care. God bless you.
Thank you. And thank you for tuning in to EduCurious, where we highlight exceptional educators and dive deep into complex issues. We will see you next time.